All right, tournament today is Chris Duncan, who fights Jordan Vucenic at UFC London. That fight is on March 22nd. So, Chris, before we start talking about, your upcoming fight, I want to talk about your last fight. You come off, an excellent victory. You pick up the guillotine, you pick up the performance bonus, the extra 50K. Tell me, did you have big plans for the money, or was this sort of a stash it away for a rainy day situation?
No, to be honest, if I thought about it, I never thought I would win 50K or submission of the night. I would always think it was going to be knockout of the night, but I'm not complaining anymore.
Absolutely. Now, it was a quick win that, got you in and out of there really fast. Were you sort of expecting to be booked a little bit sooner than this? Because I know you've been, kind of off for a little while.
Yeah, I was. I've been messaging my manager, um, but the thing with this fight is I wanted to make sure I had time. I took that fight on last minute notice. I took it on 5 weeks notice, and by the time I signed the contract, it was 4 weeks. So I cut a wee bit too much weight. I cut a lot of weight actually, just out of lack of discipline outside of camp for the Paris fight. Coming off a loss, I was a little bit, I wouldn't say depressed. I want to use that word lightly. Just a bit down about the fight, so I was probably indulging in a little bit more food than I should have been. I wasn't as disciplined, and then because I was messaging my manager and wanted some time to make weight. He's like, "Oh, I've got you this fight in 5 weeks' notice," and I was like, "Ah." I so wanted to get in there too, so I just went ahead and done it and cut the weight. And I think it potentially could have maybe affected the fight, if the fight went on a little bit longer, but we just don't know. I make sure I do the reload and do the water cut properly every time. So, I got the W, got the 50K, got the guillotine, got the finish. But I'm way ahead of schedule this time in regards to my weight. It's the leanest I've been and the earliest I've been the whole camp, so it's been fantastic.
Well, that's great to hear. If you don't mind me asking, what are we looking at for numbers for that weight cut? What were you trying to take off during fight week?
Uh, Fight week, like 21 pounds.
That's Alex Pajeda is supposedly doing that as we speak, but he's a little bit bigger than you are, so
Yeah,
I'd say
yeah.
yours is more impressive.
I had the weight to lose, so like the weight came off, the fat, like obviously fat came off fight week as well. So I did lose a big chunk of that fight week, and it was quite dramatic fight week, like changing the carbohydrate intake. I didn't really cut as much water as I thought I would have going to have to be, but it all worked out in the end. It wasn't too bad. It was enough, but it was too much. There's a kind of fine line between, oh, that's a wee bit too much, and that's enough.
Absolutely. Now, you said it's going better for this fight, so let's talk a little bit about this fight. You're getting a chance to fight in London again for the first time in a couple of years. It's been since 2023 since you got to fight in London. Are you excited to be fighting back in the UK? Is that exciting for you?
Not particularly. I just I would quite like to travel a little bit, and I think that's just out of curiosity to try and maybe go to the Apex or stuff like that. I fought in London twice. I fought Yanal Ashmus and I fought Omar Morales in my debut. So it's going to be, the good thing is it's going to be very similar to what I've been before. Um, but London's a nice place. I do enjoy fighting there. The fans are great, even though I'll not be the hometown favourite this time. Jordan Vucenic will be, so doesn't matter. I've went to Mexico City. I can't get any worse than that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. Like, will it be weird because you fought in the UK before? Will it be weird, kind of not being the favorite? Has that ever been the case for you before?
Yeah, oh yeah, fuck. I've been like that. Like, I don't care about that sort of stuff. It's noise is noise.
That makes sense to me. Now, I got to take you back to something you said in that last answer, too, where you said, I kind of like to fight in the Apex because there's a lot of people who complain about the Apex. Fans complain about it, commentators, media guys, sometimes even fighters. But you're saying you'd like a chance to fight in the Apex. What about the Apex intrigues you?
It's more about the kind of outside noise. I think early on in my career, I fought in COVID quite a lot. Um, So I was kind of used to the no noise, no fans, and then I had to kind of come out of that. But I'm used to it now. I think, there's a good saying that John Danaher uses is about like the only thing that's changing from the training room is the environment. Don't let the environment dictate how you act or feel. Um, you should be able to channel out all that sort of stuff. And there was an analogy used about walking over a 2x4 on the ground, and kids would run across it, balance across it. But when they put the 2x4 at a two-story building and put it across, people were scared to walk across it because the environment's changed and the height has changed. So, I've throughout my camp and throughout time I've been sitting thinking about this, and it's completely right. The only thing that's changed is a show. And I just need to make sure I can block out all that sort of stuff. And I've fought in front of fans that many times now that it can't be any different than it has been before.
I like it. Now, I was going to ask you too, because obviously, you're from Scotland and you're from the UK, but you train in Florida, right? You're still training at ATT. So, what does it look like in terms of fight camp? Does it mean, yeah, it's looking nice out there, right? Are you going out there early? Did you, do any training out there beforehand, or is this 100% Florida? You're basically flying in like somebody who, isn't from out there.
So I went. I've been here for 5 weeks. It'll be 5 weeks on Monday. Would have been here, and then I'll have the last fight week at home. I knew about the date. I didn't know about the opponent, so that was a kind of blessing in disguise. So that I managed to get the weight down, started sparring a little bit, and by the time I came here, I was already fit. The first 2 weeks of my fight camp were fantastic. I'm always a little bit cautious coming into this fight camp over here because the guys are all killers over here, and I'm always worried about being unfit. Sometimes I have came here a little bit unfit just because of the lack of training partners back home. But this time around, I came in here in tip-top shape, so everything was taken off pretty early.
Well, and let's talk about the training partners too, because obviously, you've got plenty of people there who can sort of mimic Vucenic's style, right? You got plenty of people who, can do what he does. Is there particular training partners that you've been using to sort of mimic some of the stuff he uses?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter who I get, but we've been training in the big cage. We have a big cage here. I've been sparring with JJ the Maori kid. I've also been sparring Dakota Bush. He was in the UFC a little while ago. He's on a 6-fight winning streak now. He's been a really good training partner for me. That guy's got really good grappling. Who else have we been training with? A young pro called Christian Turner. He's a really good guy. Good striking. Young kid as well, athletic. So the training partners have just been unreal. And I've been grappling, doing the grappling classes with Grant Dawson, Gamrot, you name it. It's like the names are just pouring out my mouth right now. And that fills me with the I can't say it's too early in the morning. The utmost confidence. I train with these guys every single day, and when I first came here, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. But actually, the guys themselves, the top dogs here were like, "Listen, Chris, remember you're also good. Like, don't ever forget that." And that's been a massive part of my training camp.
Well, that's great to hear. Now, let's talk a little bit about the stylistic matchup for Vucenic, because you just mentioned some of the people who might be helping get you prepared for that wrestling style or other aspects of his game. When they eventually came with you and said Vucenic is the name that we want to go with for this fight, what did you think about the stylistic matchup and how you match up with him?
I think a lot of people would think that he's going to be smaller coming on from being from featherweight, which I probably expect as well. I expect him probably to be just similar to my last opponent, a little bit faster on the feet, just due to the size advantage, that I have. I'm probably a bit bigger, probably slightly stronger. Vucenic probably has sharper striking than I do, which is fine. But this is MMA. The game plan and also the techniques that we have been implementing in this camp translate very well over to MMA, not just Muay Thai, not just Jiu-Jitsu, not just MMA. We're over here working the full skill set of MMA. And I'm looking forward. I'm really, really looking forward to showing the world what I've been working on. I wish I could give everybody an insight to my training camp right now. When it comes to videoing my sparring and my grappling and stuff like that. People think, especially a lot of people from back home in Scotland, there's a couple of gyms and a couple of people who have quite a lot to say about me coming over here training in the American top team and leaving my hometown. But it's not their fucking career. It's my career, and I can do what the fuck I want. So there's a lot of shit being said back home that I'm a little bit disappointed. They didn't need to say these sorts of things, but I'm just gonna have to shut them up, aren't I?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how you're going to shut them up. I love to end these things with a prediction. So you said you want to show everybody what you've been working on, what the fruits of your labors at ATT have been. What's your prediction? How's this one go down on March 22nd?
This is going to be a tough fight. I'm not going to lie. I do think this is probably going to go the 3 rounds. Jordan is probably one of the best opponents I've ever come across. He's probably, if not the best, and I respect him highly. But saying that, I think my interpretation of how this fight's going to go is probably not the way that my coaches think the fight's going to go. They see how I put the work in, but I can promise you, I'm going to try and finish this guy, whether it be from punches, whether it be from submissions. I have it all. Yeah, a lot of the time, especially, I've went 3 rounds. The only time I've went the distance is twice now in the UFC, and that's, I think, out of my 12 or 13 fights, I think that's maybe 2 or 4 I've went the distance. So I'm in there to kill, and if I get the chance and he slips up, I'm going to take his head. I have to. It's just within my heart. All due respect to him, he's a great opponent, and we talk online. We still do talk online, but not obviously since we've been matched up. We've got great respect for each other. I can guarantee he thinks the same thing.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. This has been Chris Duncan, who fights Jordan Vucenic at UFC London. Once again, that fight, March 22nd. Chris, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, my man. Anytime.